I watched Fruits Basket, and this is what I thought. So, if you don't know anything about Fruits Basket, here is a little synopsis. So, Fruits Basket follows the Soma family, and the Soma family is actually cursed. They turn into animals from the Chinese zodiac when they embrace someone of the opposite sex. This doesn't happen to them when they embrace each other, like other members of the family who are also zodiac members, so they can embrace other people that are also cursed, that are the opposite sex. But anyone who is outside of them, anyone they embrace, they will turn into the animal from the Chinese zodiac they are associated with. During this show, the family meets Toru, and she is kind of homeless and doesn't really have anyone at the moment. They offer her a place to live since she goes to the same school as some of them, and she ends up living with a few of the family members. And shortly after living with them, she stumbles upon their secret. She promises not to tell anyone, and they decide to trust her. And together she tries to work with all of them to find a way to break the curse. Okay, so we will now be getting into spoilers. So for this video, I'll be focusing on season 3 of the show and talking more about that one since that is the most recent season I just watched. So when we left off of season 2, we found out that one person from the Soma family had their curse broken. When that information was told to us, I was absolutely shocked. I was like, what? It's possible? And so we kind of start off season 3 where we left off with season 2. Where Toru finds out that someone from the Soma family, their curse has been broken. But other than that curse being able to be broken, I didn't really remember too much from the previous seasons, which I'm sad to say. I should have definitely rewatched probably before I continued on, but it is what it is. Eventually, as I started to watch more of season 3, I remembered more and more things as the show went on because they did make reference to things. I was like, oh yeah, that did happen, yeah. Eventually, I was getting caught up. But there's so many characters within this show and so many members of the Soma family that I did forget some. I did get confused because it had been a while since I was back in this world and visited this family that I just needed to be reminded of who was who. Like, I knew the main characters, like the characters Toru is living with, but other than that, I didn't really remember the other like extended family, the ones we don't see too much. But let's get back to the show. When we find out that the curse is broken for one person, it turns out he really isn't the only person that knows this. There seems to be others within the Soma family that suspect it. The ones that are older and more adults, they're the ones that kind of have suspected his bond may be broken. I did find that a little surprising. I didn't know that other people in the Soma family would know. I guess it kind of makes sense. You might notice something different, like you always have this bond and then something changes, so it makes sense. But the younger ones, the one in school, didn't know, only the older members. Throughout the season though, more of the bonds kept on breaking. Just more were breaking, more people were getting freed from this curse. So at first I thought it had something to do with how certain characters were at like what point of life they were or where they were mentally that their bonds broke. Like maybe they were just done, maybe they officially given up and not wanted to follow anymore and that their bond broke. But as more bonds were being broken, it didn't seem that way. It looks like, to me at least, that the bonds were just like weakening and it was just breaking, and it didn't matter who it was, it just broke. So it just seemed like it didn't matter who was connected to the bond, the bonds were getting weaker, and eventually one by one they were breaking. So that was something that took me a while to figure out, okay, what's happening. I kind of wished a little bit that it was like once they mentally were done, then their bond was breaking. When I kind of thought back at it, I feel like they were all kind of done. They didn't want to be cursed, so maybe this was the only way it could happen. Okay, now I want to talk about some moments and parts of the show that kind of stood out to me. So the first thing, or person I should say, that I want to talk about is Shigure. So at first, Shigure, I didn't love his character, but I knew he was an unserious, sometimes inappropriate character, but I feel like he was meant to bring some laughter and lightness to situations. Like that was what his character was meant for. And he was just like a goofy guy that sometimes stressed other people out, but he just seemed very like go with the flow, not really stressed out type of person. But as the show progressed, there seemed to be another side to him. Kind of, if you would say, a darker side to what his character usually was. And some things that he did, I did not love. And it did make me dislike his character. I just didn't love some of the actions he did and how he went about them, the secrecy and the deceiving, sometimes manipulation in my opinion. I just didn't love that. And I didn't love his character to begin with. I just felt like they had him for a reason. But as the show went on and as I continued to see what he was doing, it made me dislike his character more. Another thing I want to know is how old is he? Because he seems significantly older than Aki. I'm just not the biggest fan of age gaps. I'm sorry, but I'm just not the biggest fan. And if there is one, I'll probably dislike something or dislike it more. And his relationship with Akito, like, I don't know. At first, they didn't seem like that big a difference. But then when they were showing flashbacks episodes, he looked like a teenager. And then Akito looked like a child. So I was like, how old are they? Like, what is their age difference? Because just from watching the show, it looked like it was very significant. And I think what I don't like about it even more is that he knew Akito as a baby. And I guess they did grow up together, but I don't know. It was weird. Like, even when they showed flashbacks, Akito was like, do you love me? Will you always love me? And probably like a kid way, but I don't know. It just seemed a little weird and I didn't love that part of his storyline. Another thing I want to touch on is Kyo's relationship with Toru's mother. So I do feel like there were hints in previous seasons that he may have known her mother, but we never knew how he knew her. But in this season, we kind of find out how he met her mother and what their relationship was. He originally met her when he was younger, like very young, like a child. And she kind of saw him sitting by himself and decided to like sit next to him, just talk to him. And they kind of became like friends, like I guess as close of friends as an adult can be to a kid. But this was a time he really didn't have anyone. Like he had the Soma curse of the cat, and the cat was kind of looked very down upon. And so I don't think at this time Kyo had anyone, or no one really cared about him or seemed to care about him. And then Toru's mother was there, kind of like a shining light, was willing to talk to him, willing to have conversations with him, and enjoyed spending time with him. I think that's a big part, enjoyed spending time with him, and that was something different from him. Eventually something does happen to cause them to drift apart from the relationship, and they don't really see each other for a very long time. Then years later, he sees her when they were about to cross a street. He like notices her. He's like, oh my goodness, that's the woman. We haven't seen each other in a while. I wonder if she was still recognized, things like that. So while they're at like a crosswalk, they're about to cross the street, there's a car and this driver is out of control. And most people saw the car, but it looks like she didn't. Kyo saw that she would have gotten hit by the car. He had a chance to kind of like help her or try to save her, but if he did, she would fall back on him and kind of embrace him, and that would expose the curse and the secret of the Soma family. So he did make a choice, and he decided not to do anything. She did end up getting hit by the car, and she did end up passing away. And this was something that you could tell still haunts him. And we also learned this was something that also kind of triggered his memories with his mother's death. I guess he also blames himself for his mother's death as well because of the person he is. So he was just dealing with a lot. Like, he feels like he caused the deaths of two women that were kind of, I would say, kind of important in his life, or showed him kindness. And he was carrying all this on his shoulders. And when he found out who Toru's mother was, he never really told her. He kind of kept this to himself. And I felt so bad for Kyo. Like, out of everything he was going through, and then you add this, like, he had a really tough life. He's been dealt a hand, man. So towards the end of the show, finally him and Toru kind of discussed their feelings openly. And Toru finally confesses that she does love him. And let me just set the scene. It's very dramatic. It's raining. It's dark. And she makes this confession. She's like, I love you. And he kind of says at this point he's disappointed in her because he told her the truth about everything and how he knew her mother. And she's still saying that she loves him. And when he said he's disappointed in her, you could just see her face. And honestly, I felt that. Like, it felt like a knife to the heart. I felt bad for Toru because she finally has the courage to admit to Kyo that she loves him. And then this is what he says. And we know he loves her. We know he cares about her. But he won't go there. He won't take that leap with her and fully embrace this love. And I understand why. He's the cat and he has the worst curse of everyone else if they don't find out how to break it. So just watching this scene play out, how they're discussing their feelings and how he's like, shouldn't love me. I can't believe you actually love me. Like, disappointed in you. It was just really sad, and I felt so bad for Toru. But let's talk more about this ending. So Akito realizes she is losing the bond with everyone, with a lot of the Soma family, and she kind of places her anger and blame towards Toru, and she ends up getting a knife and she does some damage. She stabbed one of the Soma family members. Thankfully, he was okay. And then she goes and finds Toru. And when she's there, she kind of confronting her, and they're both talking. And she's like, she's blaming her. And Toru, being the person that she is, she says she wants to be Akito's friend. She kind of like, my eyes have been open. I see that this person's just lonely and just wants people to love her and to be comforted by her. And I guess the bond was a way to force people to be around her and not be lonely. Akito starts taking a knife and like slashing and cutting Toru, but Toru's still there. She's like, I just want to be your friend. And eventually Toru still talks to Akito and like tells her like, you can start over, you can change, let's start now, let me be your friend, and like holds out her hand to her. Even though she's bleeding and she's cut up, he's like, let's start over, let's be friends. And Akito's about to reach for her hand, and then the ground beneath Toru just gives in, and she's like on the edge of kind of like a cliff, and it like breaks off and Toru falls along with all the ground that she was standing on. Y'all, I was like, no, Toru, like, of course this happens when Akito's trying to turn over a new leaf. Toru's trying to be that person to help her, and then she like falls off a cliff basically. It was really sad. I felt really bad for Akito because this was the moment she wanted. She wanted someone to want to be her friend voluntarily. She finally got it, and then Toru falls and gets hurt really bad, and she looks unconscious. So finally, Akito gets help, they get Toru help, and she's okay. In the end, the bonds all break, and it's kind of by Akito letting go. She realized what's happening, but she's like, I'm giving you your freedom, I'm giving you your control. She's letting go of this bond and letting the curse be broken. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that she released all the ones who aren't already broken. She kind of released them, like, okay, be free. Like, this is the start of a new chapter in our lives. I think it was interesting, the sadness that was accompanied with the bonds breaking. Because originally I thought everyone was happy, but I didn't expect the sadness. And how it was portrayed and described was like they all had this unbreakable bond before, even though it kind of was a burden, but they were all connected in some way. And then having that bond just suddenly be broken, there was a sadness. They weren't all connected like they were before, because a lot of them did enjoy being around each other, and they just had a bond that they all shared, and they don't really have that anymore. And I guess there's a way of trying to figure out how they still connect without that bond. But yeah, the sadness was interesting. It was surprising. I wasn't expecting that, but it was kind of like a sadness of a goodbye to what was before, but they were happier in the end because they were free. And one of my absolute favorite parts of the ending was Toru and Kyo. I always wanted them to be together. I always shipped them from the very beginning, and just seeing them together towards the end was so cute. And I loved how there's like a flash forward scene at the very, very end, and you see them as grandparents, and they're still together, still in love, just walking side by side, enjoying each other's company. And I thought that was a great way to end the series. I love them so much, and they've been, especially those two, they've been through so much, and I think it was great that they could be together and have all this happiness towards the end of their lives. Okay, so after watching this, I would give it 3 stars. I think this is a good anime, and I want to preface, I don't watch a lot of anime, but I enjoyed this one. It was cute, it was funny, and it had some romance, so I thought it was great. I enjoyed getting to know the Soma family and everyone, all the characters. It was a good time. So since I don't watch a lot of anime, I don't really have a lot of recs because I don't watch too much. But I have seen My Happy Marriage, and it is a cute like romance anime. So if you like romance, maybe check out My Happy Marriage. So that's my only recommendation I have for this one. But if you have seen Fruits Basket, what did you think? And if you have any recommendations for anime that are similar to this, definitely let me know. I would love to check another one out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like, subscribe, mention in the comments your thoughts. Do you agree, disagree? I will link my website down below. You can check out more TV content there. I'll also put my socials as well, ATS_MGO on all platforms. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, week, month, and hopefully a good rest of your year. And until next time, bye.